So here we are with the final wash here on the Conan Brutal kit, and it's looking really good. I'm really liking this. It's fully dried. It's been cured up for a while now, and it looks great. That's one of the other things is when these washes go on here, you really don't know what you get until they actually finalize and cure up completely. That way the paint recesses all into the deep little crevices here the way it's going to, and then you can come back in and wipe some of this off. And so it looks really good. I've got nice coverage here, and yet still a good bit of the coppery flesh kind of coming through here. I'm seeing a little bit of the green patina, the first layers that I laid down, showing through in some of those areas, and that's exactly what I want. I didn't want it to be just black or a dark gray. I wanted that kind of a greenish tone showing through that, and that's exactly what happened. And that's what I was banking on, and that's what I got. So the next step is to move on to the highlighted patina. Now this I probably won't put on quite as much. I'm going to be very, very selective as to where I put that in. And so with that, you tend to want to do a little more research on it and that sort of thing, just to kind of see where do bronzes like this actually patina, in the wild, if you will. And so, like when water hits this, and as well, it's usually water is what it is, and then the oxidation, and it takes care of it there. But whereas little areas in these little crevices, is it going to be under here? Where are we going to see this patina effect? And so, this is my own piece, so I can kind of go about it on my own. But it'd be a good idea for me to take a look at some statuary and make sure that, hey, look, you're not going to see a patina here. You would rather see it here, or would it be over here or there, or that sort of thing. And so that's where the research comes in. So research is simply going and seeing, going and doing. Modeling is not just about just sitting here and painting and building and all that kind of stuff. I could hole up in the basement here forever and do that, but if I don't get out and actually experience the world and see some of this stuff, then I have no idea. I'm just guessing at it. So anyway, that's enough philosophy. Let's see how this is going to work. I am going to take some of this, this is just apple barrel colors. This is craft paint. And, some people bash this stuff. I'm not a big fan of it as far as its pigment quality goes. It's not the best paint in the world. I like a lot of other craft paints, but hey, it gets the job done, at least for what I'm trying to do here, especially with these washes. It doesn't have to have a really heavy pigment in it. So I'm going to use this, and I'm going to shake it up here a little bit. I'll grab one of my little trusty little cups here. And I'm going to put some of this in there. Really exciting stuff, isn't it? And I am going to mix it with my favorite little brew here, a little bit of the future here. And I'm not putting a whole lot in there. That's very, very little amount. I will go ahead and continue to thin this a little more, just not with the future. I'm actually going to use my acrylic thinner, and I talk about this in a couple of the other videos. But just in case you skip those, one, shame on you. You need to go back and watch those. They're awesome. Not because I'm in them, but because this kit's in them, obviously. But two, this little mixture here is distilled water, just a touch of isopropyl alcohol, and just a few drops of dishwashing liquid to break it up. So I'm going to use that, about the same amount of the future floor wax. So it's like half future floor wax, half that, and then whatever my paint is. And then for the brush, I like to mix this with a brush. You can use a dowel or whatever, but I like to use a brush to mix it because the bristles, I can dig in there with the bristles a little bit and actually mix it up. So it's almost like I'm trying to get it here on camera. So it's almost like a whisk is how my little brush works. And so this is, pretty watery here. It's maybe the consistency of milk, probably. So I want this a little bit thicker. I don't want it too super thin. And I think just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to put it here on the shield here. So I have to stop and kind of think about where this would be. once again, this is going to be, water dripping down off of this. So where is that water going to flow, and how is it going to pool up? And, I could just do this by just slathering this on here and see what happens, but, that's going to cause a train wreck. So I'm just going to guess at this, and we'll say I'm going to put it right here underneath here in this crevice. And I'm just going to kind of let this stuff do its own thing here. And I'm going to let it kind of come down over the lion. I'm just going to kind of pull this in. And then it's going to come down and it's going to hit this little track here. And it's going to bead up there a little bit. And then perhaps when it gets full enough, it'll actually travel on down. And so this is going to be my process for this, is I am not going to just slather this on like I did the other. I'm actually going to work this in, maybe put a little more right up in here. And I'm just going to let this stuff gather where it wants, like so. And I don't know. We'll see. I'm going to rinse the brush out here. And I'm going to just run a little bit of water over that. So I'm going to do more of a targeted wash with this. And so I'll probably just experiment with that on the shield just a little bit and see how that works. And then maybe shoot another video and see whether I like that or not. I think before I attack this whole thing with it, though, I might go to a dummy piece and play around with that a little bit. Play around with this patina and make sure that's the color I want. I can see already, I mean, it is drying super fast underneath the studio lights here. I can see already I'm getting the color that I want. I mean, it's got that milky greenish look here. And I can see it right up here. Let me get my big fat finger out of the way. Right up here. Let's see if I can zoom in on that. So, right here. Check that out. See how it's getting that little kind of faded washing. I mean, it's just, that's what it's doing. The pigments are kind of pooling up in these crevices, and that's exactly what I wanted to do. So I'll play around with this a little bit, see what I like about it. I might try another technique, which just came to me right then when I was thinking about this, and that would be to moisten this area. Let me zoom out real quick. I'll do it right here on this little crack right here. There's this, he's got a huge crack that's run across here where he got struck by something. So right in here, I'm going to take and I'm going to wet this out down with just water, just nothing fancy here, just water, just distilled water. I'll water that down just a little bit here. And it looks like I'm painting it on a lot, but what I'm doing is just trying to push it around a little bit because I don't want it like completely drenched when I do this. Alright. And then I'm going to grab my other brush here. Load it up with a little bit of my Victorian green. Now, notice that I didn't mix anything with the Victorian green other than the thinners. That's it. But now when I hit this, watch what happens. Look at that. Boom, boom, boom. It just runs like crazy when you do that. And that is so awesome. The water here is acting as a vehicle to carry this much faster than if it was just dry. So yeah, I can see already that's the ticket. That's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to just kind of plop some of this in here, and then come over here, get a little more water, and then just kind of wash right back over that. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, that's the stuff right there. That's what I'm looking for. That's it. So now there's the technique that I think I'll use here. I'm just going to wash that down a little bit, let it do its thing, and you can see it's just wanting to pool and do its thing. And let me see if I can turn that a little bit so you can see, maybe get it out of the spotlight there a little bit. Yeah, maybe I'll do it. The camera's trying to refocus on it there. But what I'm getting here is kind of a milkiness right in here, and then of course along these little edges, it's pooling up right in there very, very nicely. Spin it back this way so if you can see it. Yeah, there we go. See, we're starting to see some of this milkiness right in here. It's very, very subtle. It's just a film of that on there, and that's exactly what I'm after. That's awesome. So there we have it. I'm not going to do the video of me doing this whole thing like this because I'm going to experiment with it a little bit, make sure I've got the technique down that I want to use, and I'll report back to you in another video perhaps, or maybe a continuation of this one, on exactly how I did go about this. Maybe get a little demo of it and let you see what it's all about. All right. Well, here we are back with Conan the Brutal here. What I have done is gone ahead and put a coat of lacquer on this to protect it from the patina wash. Just in case I get some patina on here where I don't want it, I'll be able to wipe it off. Even use a little bit of a thinner there to get it off of there without damaging what I've done so far. So it looks pretty good so far. I mean, it looks a little funny with the high gloss lacquer on it now. It did have kind of a dull look to it a little bit before. And it will again once I finish with this. And once again, I'm going to try to do more of a targeted wash with this particular patina. And this is just the Victorian green mixed with a little bit of Future floor wax and a little bit of my acrylic wash mix here, my little acrylic thinner mix here. So it's about the consistency of milk. And so what I want to do is do more of a targeted wash here with this. Instead of just sloshing over the whole thing, I'm just going to pinpoint certain areas here where I want this to wash down. Now, you know, two things for using the high gloss lacquer in this case for my clear coat. One, to protect, obviously, but two, the high gloss actually gives a much slicker surface for my washes to run down. So I just got some rinse water here, and I'm just going to drop a little water on that. So I'm really thinning this down, and I'm going to let this water kind of pull it around. Now, the other thing I can do, which is really great, is that I can go ahead and pre-wet a particular place. Now, the high gloss doesn't hold this too well because it is such a high gloss. It will want to just let the water bead up and move around, whereas a matte coat doesn't do that quite as bad. Maybe it still does it to some degree. It does repel water. I mean, after all, that's kind of its job, is to protect the surface from things like water. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw some water on there, and then I'm just going to drop some of my patina mix, and I'm going to guide it where I kind of want it to go. And I'm going to let gravity take care of the rest. So I'm just kind of guiding it in here, letting it do its thing, and then when it touches that water, well, it just kind of thins the mix there and lets it run on its own. So already it's starting to run just a little bit. Now all I have to do is just kind of keep pulling it in here. Do a little bit across there, maybe a little here. And I'm just kind of working this in here. Now I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. Alright, so you can see I've pooled a lot of the Victorian green in here. So all I'm doing is just kind of pulling it out a little bit, and I'm going to just kind of hopefully let it find its own path here. And then I go back over it. I've got just a small cup of just some regular water here, and I've already kind of dunked a brush in here before with a little bit of this on it to kind of play around with it. So it's a little cloudy, but it's cloudy because it has more of this wash in here. So if I just touch that, you see it starts to run, because it's just this water, and it's going to let it run and do its thing. And so this is what I want to do. I just want to kind of touch this a little bit in this area and let the water kind of pull this down and do whatever it is it's going to do to it. So it is a bit more of a targeted wash than just simply sloshing it everywhere, but it does get a little messy, and that's okay. It's a little erratic at that point when it's messy like that, so that's all right. And I can pull just the slightest bit of it over here, the center, and give it a slight haze. Now, as this dries, it's going to go back into the little recesses and hopefully go into the spots where I want it to go. I can always kind of come in here and touch this up a little bit, but just adding a little of this in here and then coming back with some just a brush loaded with water to help just kind of sell that idea. And so that's it. Now, as this begins to dry, you know, this is going to pool up in certain areas, and you can see it's actually happening here without me touching it. You see this pool of stuff is just kind of going down here, and it's going to go in here above his belt. And I figured as much. It's going to pool up in there, and that's probably okay. That's going to be all right. I may have to get some of that out of here, but for the most part, I think that's going to be all right. And so that's it. That's it. I just gotta work this in here a few little places like this. Like I said, more of a targeted wash than just a sloshing it all over kind of a deal. And I guess really I'm going to work from the top to the bottom. Normally I work from the bottom to the top, but in this case, if I start here at the bottom and start putting this on, and then it starts washing down, well, every time I add to it, it's going to keep washing down, and I'm afraid I'm going to get too much of a buildup here on the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and start at the top and just kind of slowly work my way down here with all these details. So I'm going to zoom back out here a little bit so you can see kind of what I've got so far here. And so you can see this overall nice little patina here is going on. I'll turn this a little bit so you can kind of see what's going on there. So that's pretty much the process. You wet the area down pretty good, and then just come back in with the patina. And I try to pay attention as to where I think the patina looks most natural. In these areas where water would collect and it would age, you know, and just age the bronze. And of course, you can use different colors of patina as well. I really like this really bright Victorian green. It's kind of nice, but it's kind of a real minty green, if you will. Really light and almost pastel. But I do like it. It does seem to look. It does have a blue cast to it, so it does look, you know, very much like a patina. A coppery patina, which is, you know, essentially what I'm after here. So I'm just going to dot this around in a few little spaces here. Let it do its magic, and then you just have to sit and wait. And that's for me, that's always the worst part. Just sit and wait to see what happens. But the more you do this, kind of the more you'll learn to know. Yeah, that's looking about right. That's about what we're after here. So. It's just like anything else. It just takes some experience with it, and so there we go. It's starting to dry up on this other side, and the studio lights is drying really, really quick. So that's another reason I'm going to stop the film here, because it's going to make this react a little differently. When it dries so fast, it reacts differently. I want to slow that drying time down. And getting these lights turned off is going to certainly help with that. So I'll shoot another video here when I am complete, but at least now you see what the process is. You simply wet the area first with some water, just clean distilled water. If you have it, put a little Dawn dishwashing liquid, or just any dishwashing liquid with a grease-fighting formula, if you will. Just put a little of that in there and just brush it on the area. I'm just going to do another little spot here real quick. I'll just do this little crease right in here. I'm just going to scrub that around in here. Once again, it's this area is got, or this statue has that high gloss lacquer on it, and so it's kind of repelling that. So I have to kind of scrub it on here a little bit to get it to adhere. The water tension, the surface tension on that water is still pretty high, even with the dishwashing liquid in there. So, and I'm just going to follow it down this fold, and so. It looks pretty bright and pretty intense right there, and that's fine for right now, because that's going to collect, and then eventually that's going to kind of dribble down like that. And so then, come back in with the water, once again, clean brush with just water on it, and I'm just going to kind of drag it along that edge a little bit, and let it pull that color out, let it spread that color. And it turns out it looks really, really nice. I love this. And it's okay if it has a little hard edge occasionally. A few of those is fine, but in this particular case, you don't want a whole lot of hard edges. with the patina because it doesn't look natural. But a few of them here and there are okay because they are, you got different stages of the patina here. So, you'll have some that are much older, and so they have a softer edge. But then the newer levels of patina may have a little bit harder edge on that. And I'm hoping you can see that. I'm going to turn this in the light a little bit because I've got a little bit of that going on right here, right in there. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's a really, really cool effect. And of course, we'll have plenty of photos of this, high-res photos of this up on the website here soon, and so you'll be able to check it out. So that's it for right now. I'll come back with an update to this, and hopefully have all of the patina in place.